Welcome to my channel, Average Indian Joe, and thank you for watching my series, The Resilient Voices. Our today's guest is Miss Smita Jhankar. She's a director of program in Indian Association for Promotion of Adoption and Child Welfare, also goes as IAPA. Formed in 1970, IAPA is a non-governmental, non-for-profit organization which set out with a broad vision to ensure that children in need of care and protection have the option of being looked after in a family environment. So, in today's episode, we will learn how this association is helping many families, and Miss Smita will help us to understand it in a deeper manner. Please enjoy this show and thank you once again. Smita ji, thank you for being here. And we've been talking for last more than 1 year now.
Yes.
And I was really eagerly waiting to be meeting you and then having this discussion. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Maniji, for talking to me for such a long time, getting to understand what I'm doing at the Indian Association for Promotion of Adoption and Child Welfare, and arranging this podcast which would help us reach our services to many more people.
Absolutely, it's
you.
my pleasure.
Yeah.
So Indian Association for Promotion of Adoption and Child Welfare, right? It was founded in 1970 with a specific mission and almost like 5 decades, right? And you're still carrying the same mission over 5 decades. So would you like to give a little bit idea as to how this journey has been so far?
Yeah, so in 1970, basically, it was started with the idea of promoting the concept of adoption, child adoption amongst Indian families. Because in those days, a lot of children would get placed in intercountry adoption, and there were Indian families which were waiting for getting a child home. And that's where the whole, mission started. And the objective of the founders was providing family care for the child. Because every child has a right to a family, and the best nurturing, the best development for a child would happen in a family, and that's where family care was the main objective. We started with adoption, and a few years later, we realized that as the founders realized that many children at that time were placed in children's homes, which were referred to as institutions in those days. Kiva ashram, balakashram.
Balakashram.
There were children being placed there, and those children were get placed in adoption. However, our team members felt that even those children, those who can be adopted, may be considering family care in terms of pre-adoption foster family care might be something which would work in the interest of the child. And that's how we started approaching, people through word of mouth, through some Mahila Mandal talks, where we identified few families which were where their children were grown up to attending school, where the primary carer, like the foster mother if we call her, she was sort of independent of all her responsibilities towards the children, because the children would go to school and there was the entire family which was there to support her. So when we identified such families, we spoke with them about what would be their role in looking after a newborn baby. And this would be a 24/7, task or a responsibility that they would take. And this is how we, started taking on more families. And whenever there was a child being referred, because the child was born out of wedlock, or the family, the birth parents were not in a position to look after the child, through a legal process, we would get the child placed in the foster family till the such time that the child was finally adopted, and even the adoption happened through a legal process.
Yeah. So thank you. So why this particular mission is still critical in India with a lot of population here, right? You still feel like this is pretty vital for India.
Yes, because there are a number of children who are available for adoption, in the sense they are there in the system where they are being taken care of in a children's home, where they can be placed in a family. So again, coming back to family care, and all through from the time we've had the Juvenile Justice Act, and India is also a signatory to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, where family is one of the primary rights of a child, and the best option for a child is to be in a family. And the last option would be, institutional care, because there is no other option available. And that is where over the years the government is also realizing that there is a need for preserving and strengthening family care for children. And that is where we, like, suppose in cases where a child's birth family is not able to look after the child, then we look at different options, adoption being one, foster family care being another, or kinship care, where I will talk about these services, in the latter part of this podcast.
You are master in MA in social work from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, a very
Yes.
prestigious institute, and specialize in family and child welfare.
Yeah.
Because this is something you must have said right from the beginning, that this is what you wanted to do, right? Now, how did this happen, right? Because not many people can drive towards that as a mission of life, right? What made you do that?
Right. So actually, when I was still at the undergrad level, we have this scheme called the National Service Scheme. And through, the National Service Scheme, which is referred to as NSS, we would go to different, maybe a children's home, or a facility for senior citizens, or a facility for people with, physical handicap and things like that. And there we were told that we had to, sort of maybe play with the children, or spend time with the people, so that they also feel that they are getting engaged in some conversation or some activity. And that is where I think somewhere the interest sort of developed. And that was also the time when I had to decide whether I want to study further, and if so, what next. And I got introduced to this course in social work. Till then, I was probably not really into, that there would be a professional course like a degree, which would help me with learning what social work is about. And that's how I then did some research, found out some information from some seniors, and managed to, apply for the respective course. And I was fortunate to get selected in Tata Institute of Social Sciences. And even then, there were different specializations. And somewhere I felt that if I go in with family and child welfare, that is the base of any area.
Correct.
Like, once you're working with children, you're working through the children, you're working with families, other areas also you would be able to, sort of work in. And that was the reason I chose family and child welfare. And again, I got selected for it. So
I think starting something which is a passion, right? You can, and I've seen it with many people, that they start something with a passion, good amount of passion, but later they don't continue that passion, right? And you've been doing this for last 5 decades, for 3 decades of,
yeah.
right? So what are the cases, or what is there any incident that actually made you realize that your contribution is needed in this particular field? Was there any particular incident?
So I wouldn't say any incident per se, but I can surely say that the satisfaction, when I started working, the field of adoption also was something new for me. But when we would see that a child was being placed with a family, joy that the
That
family had.
satisfaction and
Yes. And we could also see that the children, as they were growing, because we would go on follow up
Yeah.
and things like that. We have an annual family visit every year. So when we see that parents and children come together to meet many more adoptive families, it is a sheer joy. Like just last month, we had our annual family meet in January, and it is. I'm say the time is short because everyone wants to,
Yes.
talk about how happy they are. Of course, there are challenges, but they also know how to overcome those challenges because life is,
But
you know,
that's a main part, right? You started something.
Yes.
You were enjoying it, and in that process, you also know that your contribution has made somebody's life better. That satisfaction really kept you going.
yes.
And when I last year I was talking to Mr. Shrikant Joshi from Vatsalya
Huh.
Trust,
Yes.
and his story is completely different. He started actually doing a full time after retirement. He took early retirement. So
Right.
so everybody has a different journey. Your journey started right from the beginning, and then you still continuing.
Yes.
So in terms of adoption, right? It's a very sensitive process. It is psychologically very sensitive process. What are the misconception in India? I know a little bit about adoption in USA because I've been with some of the parents who have adopted kids in USA. I never met somebody other than our friend Archana who adopted her child from same institute. Right?
Yes.
But I wanted to understand, are there any misconception here? And then how do you tackle those? How do you educate people?
Yeah, so sometimes people feel adoption is only for childless couples. So, which, yes, the priority would be given for childless couples. But at the same time, there are people who want to give a family to a child. And if a child is getting a family, we would prepare them and go ahead with the whole process. Now there is a process involved in adoption, and that process does take some time because it is about preparing oneself to accept a child which is not born within the family. We have to talk to the parents, the prospective parents, about a different set of genes than the child would be coming with. Also, if the child is in a children's home, being brought up in a children's home, and if they adopt an older child, then what are the concerns that they have to be ready with? We need to prepare the child about it. There are also misconceptions, like there are these kind of thoughts that I want to adopt. Even an older couple might want to adopt a small child, thinking that if I adopt a child right from a very young age, the child is, I don't have to share the fact of adoption with the child. The child needn't know about his or her adoption, and things will, move on from there. However, because we've been working in this field for many years with a lot of research that is going on, we've realized that sharing the fact of adoption is a very important part of adoption, and one needs to prepare the parents to accept it so that the parents themselves share the fact of adoption with the child rather than the child getting to know about it from some other source. So these are
So
certain.
does this happen? Have you seen when this was revealed to a child? Have you seen anybody contacting you to find out what's their birth mother?
Yes. Now, even there are, different, because each child is a different personality. So we can't, sort of have a blanket statement on that. There have been children where their parents shared the fact of adoption with them. They grew up accepting it, and even when parents ask them, like, do you want to contact, or do you want to initiate that search for your roots, for your birth parents. And they very clearly said that, no, I'm not interested, because I'm content with, you being my parents, and whatever my birth parents decided was for my best. So that is the kind of, thoughts they have. On the other hand, we do get, young teenagers where they want to somewhere get a closure that there is some birth history to me. I just want to know who were my birth parents, what were the circumstances under which I was, placed in for adoption. Also, going a step further, some children, young persons, would want to actually meet their birth parents.
Do they meet?
Now, there again, there are legal concerns that we have to look into, because when we took the child in our care from the birth mother or the birth parents, there was a document, a legal document, which was signed by the birth parent saying that I want to keep all my information confidential.
Yeah.
And today the law also says that the mother's right would always overrule, the child's right. So there are still some debates happening. So what we do is we try to get as much information as possible. Like, we've had 1 or 2 cases coming to us where they've said that they want to meet their birth parents. We try to find out information. However, we've also found out that in a number of cases, the family probably has shifted out, or at that time when the address was given to us was probably a false address. So there are, because I'm talking about the early 80s, the 90s, where we had adoptions taking place, and then, some of the young persons coming back to us. So these are difficult, challenging situations, and we need to talk to so there, counseling also comes in, where we need to talk to the young person. Sometimes birth mothers, if we are able to contact and if they are willing to, meet the child, we are open to arranging for such meetings.
What about the other side? Have you seen a scenario where the parents who have placed their kid for the adoption wanted their child back?
Yeah. Now, for that also, when they gave the child to us, as in handed over the child to us by signing the document, a document of surrender, legal document, we talk to them. We tell them that there is this 2 months period given to you for you to rethink your decision. Because again, here, when we are talking about family care, the best option for the child is to be brought up in the birth family.
Yeah.
So we give that option to the birth parents. Now, in most cases, in the Indian context, because of the social stigma attached to unwed motherhood, often, young girls do not come back to
And
claiming the
I
child.
have seen that when I was talking to Mr. Shrikant Joshi last year,
Huh.
and what they do at Vatsalya Trust is incredible, right? Destitute girls
Yes.
at the age of 15, 16, giving birth to kids, right? It's hard.
Yes.
And he also mentioned that it's a very different process altogether. And and so yeah, I mean, I think it's a very sensitive process, and I'm pretty sure legally also you have to verify every single aspect. But so I wanted to move to kinship part now, because I wanted to understand a little bit deeper, because institutionalization in terms of adoption, right, is one way of doing it.
Yes.
Kinship is other way. 100 kids are in this program right now, and majority of them with single mother background, right?
Yeah.
Would you like to talk more about it, and
Yeah.
how this is, because this is different in terms of raising a kid, and how is it helpful for kid, if you can answer that as well.
Yeah, so kinship care, the name of course, we started this program again in 1995. At that time, we also had a government of Maharashtra scheme called the Bal Sangopan Yojana. And the government had appointed IPA as one of the organizations among 5 organizations to run the Bal Sangopan Yojana. And simultaneously, and there we had a limit of 85 children whom we could support. But we realized that there were many more children who were in need of this service. And that's where we started approaching, individual donors, CSR funders to consider supporting up to 100 children. And that's how we started with 100 additional children in addition to Bal Sangopan Yojana. The alternative family care or kinship care program is similar to the Bal Sangopan Yojana. Basically, if a parent is not able to look after the child, the best option that the parent thinks of is to place a child in a children's home, because there the child's basic needs will be taken care of. However, our social workers started acting as gatekeepers there at the child welfare committee, where all these decisions are taken place. So our social workers would meet the parents, do spot counseling, that we will support you, and the support that we'll give you is financial support to begin with. And once you come on board with us, there are many other areas in which again we'll talk about it a little later, many other areas in which we can support you. And that is how quite a few parents started, like especially single mothers or families where both the parents have some debilitating illness and are not able to look after the child. So we would then identify some close relative, either one of the parents or maybe a grandparent or some uncle, someone from the extended family who would look after the child, so the child continues to stay in the safe socio-cultural environment and is not uprooted and placed in a children's home. So that is how we started.
Because the psychology of child at that point of time, when you move that person, that human, from one place to other ecosystem, which is a change, big change, and change is always difficult. And at that age, if there is a big change, it's gonna remain. It impacts for the whole life.
Right. It is going to, and there have been times when there is sort of an institutionalized personality that the child can develop into, because one is suddenly, often the children are never asked what is their what they want.
What is their choice?
So they are just taken and placed in a children's home where there is a big amount of regimentation, and that is bound to happen because the institution people also have to manage a large number of children in different age groups. So there could be cases of bullying that happens because there are some older children who are already there and they know that, okay, a new one has come in. Also depends upon the personality of this child, how much the child has been prepared. So yes, is a psychological impact for the child also.
Educational sponsorship, right? As of now, you have almost like 500 kids going through it. More than that.
More than 600.
More than 600.
Yeah. Actually, educational sponsorship we started in Mumbai. But in 2004, we expanded our program to a particular village in Ratnagiri district, in Dapoli Taluka. Yeah. And today, from then till now, we have over almost 200 students in different villages in Dapoli Taluka, where we are supporting them, and more girl children, because we have one of our funding organizations which is very keen on girl child education.
So in this program, in education support program, what do you do, and what appeal you would like to make here, where you'll get more sponsorship and more help because this is a very good cause as well.
Educational sponsorship, like though we we start from fourth standard, like we start supporting the family, we talk to the parents, we tell them that you have to send, it would be good that you send your children to school, because a number of times we notice that parents are not able to earn enough for the family, and that's when they think the आता 5वी-6वी पर्यंत शिक्षण झालंय, let my daughter get into some household job where she'll start earning
money.
so girls are generally they tend to drop out of schooling, or even with boys maybe till 7th or 8th standard they study, after which they're sent for some small jobs, and then they start getting into that workflow more than the education. But what I would like to say is that since 95, when we started the educational sponsorship program, we have realized that the dropout rate, at least where we are working with the children, has gone down. Children whom we start supporting from their 4th standard, they continue, majority of them continue up to graduation, some post-graduation. There are children who feel that they are not able to, take up graduation level courses or professional courses. They would go in for vocational. So we have career guidance for them. But to begin with, we start with a proper assessment to ensure that this child surely needs, or this family needs, the support. To tell you frankly, when there is financial aid that is given, there could be some, families who feel that if we are getting the financial assistance, yes, please support my child. So we ensure that what is their income, how many people are dependent on their income, what is their, living condition. We have parents who are, some of them living on the streets, single mothers living, if you visit South Mumbai and the old buildings, there are passages in the building where तिथे पण राहतात, आणि thanks to some of their employers who allow them to stay, otherwise they would be on the streets. And there are parents who rent houses, small rooms, at a very high cost.
So the kids who go through this educational sponsorship, त्यांना घर पण नाहीये राहायला.
Some of them.
So they get institutionalized somewhere, or they?
No, because we do not believe in institutionalization. ना त्यामुळे फॅमिली बरोबरच ते राहतात.
Okay.
आणि दॅट्स वेअर, म्हणजे जर का त्यांचे आईवडील नसतील, देन वी लुक ॲट, ओके, आजी आहे, आजोबा आहेत, काही आजी आजोबा सुद्धा, दे आर स्ट्रगलिंग विथ देअर ओन issues, maybe health,
Managing their own health.
but they are somewhere got convinced that yes, my child needs to stay with me. And they somewhere feel ki let my grandchild study, and somewhere they value education, and that is where we support them. So as I said, after completing this assessment, we take them on board. We start with the financial support, which currently works out to around 10,000 rupees per child per year. Manje, you can imagine, it's not even a big amount, but this is like just to, take them to a level where they continue studies. And then, of course, as they go ahead, we do approach more donors to, support their tuition fees, support their higher education fees. I must say, and with great pride and happiness, that we have had donors who have, felt that higher education for children is important. If a child has come through difficult circumstances and has reached a level where it's going to help the child, they are willing to, support. So that is also there. So, and though we call it the educational sponsorship, here I would like to specifically, mention this. One of our earlier directors, she is no more, Mrs. Kaumudi Telang. She was of the, firm belief that even when children come for education, when they don't get the morning breakfast, basic नाश्ता अगर नहीं है या उनका पेट बराबर से नहीं भरता है, तो what are we talking about education?
Correct.
So though we call it educational sponsorship, it is basically to help them stay in the education stream, but also supporting them with, good nutrition where required. Then as we come to know, maybe there are medical issues, there are other behavioral issues. So we have a child guidance center. And, as we went on, there are different allied programs or support services.
One of them is Astha, Asmita.
Which is, Asta is our child guidance center. Again, there we currently have a team of professionals. We have a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a counselor, and a remedial therapist. All the services being coordinated by our social worker who has years of experience in the field. And we have a case aid worker who, whatever follow-up needs to be done after the professionals have looked into the case, continues with the follow. And we really are seeing that there is a change happening, whether it's behavior issues, whether it's interpersonal issues. There are cases where the father is addicted to alcohol, is into alcoholism. So that requires a lot of, working on, because that affects, there can be domestic violence at home. The child is looking at it and getting influenced by it. So all these issues get handled. There could be matters like stress management, anger management, and we've seen that it is showing good results. And again, last few years, we've had a CSR support, because see, when we have, we don't charge the parents or the children any fee.
Yeah.
So they, and we have a team of professionals. So we have to also acknowledge their services. They come once a week and handle these, some of these very challenging cases. So there is an expense involved in it, and which we again approach different individuals, CSRs to, support us. Till now, we've been fortunate to receive support from one such CSR, and we keep appealing to people, because see, mental health or child guidance center, the services that we are providing are very crucial. Generally, physical health, मला बरं वाटत नाही है, I go to the doctor. But when it comes to issues of emotions or psychological issues, behavior issues, a number of times parents also feel ki,
No, it's neglected. It's one of the neglected.
because my child just behaves like this.
They say you did.
But that is affecting the child or probably affecting the other children in the classroom. And these are things which need to be, taken further. In fact, just last week, we had a sensitization session with the municipal school teachers, because they come in contact with children for a good number of 6 to 7 hours. And if they identify such cases, they can then refer those cases to IEPA, to the Astha Center also.
Life skills and vocational courses, right? When the kids grow up, right, it's a very essential part for them to get a job, right? And especially right now with the economy changing and job, market itself is transforming. Do you seek help from many institutions from India itself, where you educate them on a vocational education part?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have, regular career guidance sessions. So we talk to children about what are the different career options, and we try talking to them as early as maybe when they are in the 8th standard, so that they start preparing themselves. Because to be frank, often children, most of the children are first generation learners. त्यामुळे त्यांच्याकडे असा गायडन्स नाही आहे की पेरेंट्स टेलिंग देम की ओके यू हॅव दीज डिफरंट ऑप्शन्स. So that is not there. So through our child guidance center also, a psychologist assesses them, tries to, understand what is their aptitude. We also talk to them about the different courses that are available apart from the usual, commerce, science, arts, because those three are there. But today we have so many different options available. आणि त्याच्यात मग vocational courses काय काय आहेत, and we tell them. And of course, when we know, like some of our children, as I said, they are with us from a very young age. So we also understand them, we know them. Our social workers work with them on a one-to-one basis too, and try to understand what is the child's interest, and accordingly we refer them for the respective vocational courses. Like, we don't have vocational courses running at our organization, but wherever there are courses available, we support them for those courses. आणि आमच्याकडे एक tailoring unit आहे. We have a tailoring course. It's a 1-year course for only girls or women, where they are not interested, or they don't. Sometimes some children do not have the ability to go ahead with studies, and therefore we don't think we have to force them कि ये पढ़ाई होनी ही चाहिए. They can study tailoring, and they can, basically the idea is to empower the child and the family, so they are able to stand on their feet, they are able to make their own decisions, they develop that confidence to move ahead in life, and that is what is our main focus in providing all these services.
So, 30 years in this segment, and it's the deepest fulfillment feeling that you must have achieved so far, right? What qualities one should possess to get into social work business? I mean, people have a tendency that, okay, I want to make an impact, and I want to do something for someone. They give their time, like whatever, like short time, long time, like. But what is missing is consistency. People drop this particular track at one point of time, maybe because of their personal things, priorities. So this is a hard journey for 30 years, and I'm thanks to you for doing what you're doing today. What are the couple of attributes or qualities that somebody should possess to be in this area and stay consistent?
Right, okay. I would, at the outset want to thank my professors, my teachers in Tata Institute of Social Sciences. I would also want to thank all my seniors at IPA, because the founder members and the kind of work atmosphere, the kind of professionalism with which they developed the entire program is something that I have learned from, and I must thank them for helping me to be consistent and going ahead with the work. I also did move out there were times when I moved out of IPA, but I was still working.
Right? You were
I was in the
because
UK.
that's another part, right? You moved from India to London and did the same part, and especially on the kinship
The
kind
foster care.
foster
Yes,
care
yes,
kind of
yes,
model, right?
Yes.
And you must have seen the difference as well. The foster care in UK,
Yeah.
foster care in India.
India.
There must be a huge difference or slightest difference. I don't know.
Yes.
Did you bring those learning here back in
Yeah.
IPA?
Yeah. So we in UK it was quite different, because there were many more regulations and systems in place, which of course we have now brought it in here also. And currently the latest Vatsalya scheme, Vatsalya
Trust.
no, this is a Vatsalya scheme of the government of India under the Ministry of
Yes.
Women and Child Development.
Okay.
So the Vatsalya scheme is also promoting foster care on similar lines as I studied in, or where I worked in the UK.
Okay.
So that's how it has taken a long time for that kind of foster care to begin here. But it is happening, and of course the kinship care which we were doing on a very small scale, that is something which I can sort of see similarities with what was there also.
But that experience really must have been good experience to bring some positives
Yes.
and also fine tune some of the processes.
Yes, actually, in terms of the systems that are in place, it is, I felt that it was really good, and we need to adapt some of those systems. I would again not get into, regimenting everything, because we are working with children, we are working with individuals. So there has to be, that professional approach, but there has to be some sort of, freedom, flexibility that is there in the interaction. Talking about social work, what you started your question with, I think social work, anyone and everyone in India would do, social work. And people like saying, yeah, I'm a social worker.
yes.
However, when I studied, what professional social work is in terms of the principles, the beliefs
Yes.
that one needs to have, the techniques that we use when we are interacting with children. So that is something which, is something which I learned at in the college, and then, of course, as I said, at the organization. And wherever I went, these were certain things which, sort of further fostered the discipline that I need to
That's a
continue
good
with.
word, discipline, right? Because
Yeah.
one can feel emotions about this case,
Yes.
but at what discipline level you really want to get involved
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
help the cause, right? That
Right.
what would you like to tell our viewer in terms of appealing to help, right? This all in this institution, because when you said that 10,000 रुपये देखील एखाद्या मुलाचं पूर्ण एज्युकेशन स्पॉन्सर करू शकतं एका वर्षाचं. सो आय हॅव लॉट ऑफ फ्रेंड्स इन USA, राईट, आणि बऱ्याच ऑर्गनायझेशन्स पण आहेत. सो CSR, right,
Right.
through CSR as well. What would you like to appeal here?
Yeah, so basically, when I say Dahazar can support education of the child, it's not the entire education, but it helps us keep the child in the education system,
Okay.
so that there is no dropout,
Okay.
As I said, we need to also support them for other tuition fees or higher education. Higher education, sometimes professional degree courses can cost, something like 1 lakh and above also. So those are where we need funding from, either through CSR or individuals, because there are people who feel that, okay, I would like to support, 20 children. Whatever the cost,
Correct.
So that way we could, we have had, when I mentioned about higher education, we have one of our donors who has been consistently supporting us for about 37, 38 students who go in for higher education, where the cost comes to around 7 to 8 lakhs. So those are the kind of the amount might vary, but that is the kind of funding that we would look for. Also, a number of times, when it comes to funding, people are willing to support the fees, support the medical expenses.
Correct.
However, when we run an organization, there are certain infrastructure costs. I must also say that ITA has all professionally trained social workers. So it's not like, just, we do have some volunteers who sometimes come in and, help us, but our ongoing work is carried out by professionally trained social workers. So there are salaries, there is honorarium. So these kind of other expenses also come to quite a cost for the organization, and that is where we keep approaching people for funding. So any kind of donation, or if people would, want to donate in a specific way, they're most welcome to contact us. You can share our
100%. I think that's
numbers.
that's the whole idea of this podcast series.
Yes.
And but thank you for being here, Smitaji.
Yeah.
I think we have been talking for almost a year now, and I really genuinely wanted to meet you.
Yeah.
And I've seen many people doing social services. I haven't personally met somebody who was doing it for 30 years. And it's a privilege from my side that to be with you here on this channel. And thank you once again. And I'll stay connected with you. Really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. One last point that I would like to make is our theme line or tagline is Shiksha, Suraksha और परिवार,
Yeah.
हर बच्चे का अधिकार.
Adhikar.
So I appeal to people to contact us to know more about this theme and help us in whatever way they can. And everyone is most welcome to visit our organization, where of course we don't have children staying there, because we don't believe in that kind of institutional care. But we have activities going on, we have children coming for certain things, and we would like people to come and visit. And thank you so much for inviting me for this podcast and helping us take IPA to more people.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a great cause, and I'm so impressed with Smitaji's journey. 3 decades of dedication, and I'm sure along with Smitaji, there are many other contributors in this organization, IPA. This organization is helping many families, right? Destitute child, underprivileged child. And I encourage you to, help this organization. Your small contribution can really make a huge difference in kids' life. I have put a description in a description box. I put the link of this particular organization to learn more. We also have a way to help them through our own non-profit organization, Watsaki. So please feel free to have a look at my description box and donate if you can. Please subscribe to my channel and also give thumbs up if you like the episode, and keep watching similar episodes where we are trying to raise awareness to help such organizations and be part of the change. Thank you for watching my series, and thank you for watching my channel.